welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. I'm Alex.
I'm Julio, and thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Help promote the algorithm and spread the word.
You can also find us on SoundCloud to subscribe and review, and don't forget to visit our main website, wearethecontrarians.com.
Follow us on Twitter at Contrarian Prime, and to like us on Facebook, visit facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
And if you have the willpower to keep up with our pretentious ramblings, you can follow us individually at Contrarian Alex for myself and at Ovnio for Julio. That's OVNIO.
Now, time for the podcast. Okay, we are recording for Contrarians Corner.
Hello and welcome back to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex. I'm all right, and I am joined by my co-host, who is also all right. Julio, how are you doing this fine Wednesday evening?
Well, you know, Daddy's all right, Mommy's all right. The Contrarians.
Nice.
I'm doing fine. I've survived 2 days, 3 days now of
This is our third day.
The
Austin water crisis of 2018.
Yes. How will we ever survive boiling water? I don't know.
Yeah, our water's all fucked up because all the rain we got. I guess it kind of mixed up all the silt in the ground or something, and it's coming in at too fast a rate for our water plants to filter. So
it's a mixture of that and Austinites just using way too much water in their daily life. So.
Dude, I cannot stop thinking about when each day I wake up and see it, the scene in This Is the End, when Danny McBride wakes up and doesn't know there's the shortage and just has the water bottles dumping them on his head.
That's your average Austinite.
I think that's what I think everyone was doing last week, and now they're just like fucking Fury Road.
They're still like washing off, taking daily showers just to wash off all the mud from ACL. So this couldn't have happened at a worse time.
I just assumed you couldn't shower, so I went 2 days without showering. And my mom was like, "No, you can shower." I was like, "Oh, well, this was a good excuse. It lasted while it could."
Hey, at least you were definitely not part of the problem.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, this episode will be dropping November 1st, so maybe by then things will have come back to normal.
It's possible. It's supposed to be another 2 weeks.
In true American fashion, we'll have already forgotten about the problem. We'll be back to overwatering our plants and everything. But
that's right. I'm proud you bring that up as the legal American that you are. We are here today. We got through the month of October with all of our spooks and scares. I hope y'all enjoyed our first commentary track on Halloween 5. That one was a blast to record, as I'm sure you guys could hear shine through.
Fear not, there will be a discussion about the new Halloween after we're done with all the official business in this episode.
Yeah, so we'll have a shortened version of plugs to leave way for our Halloween discussion. So if you haven't seen it and want to, don't worry, the spoilers aren't going to come for another hour or so. We are here today hopping into the holiday months, November and December, so it's about family ties. That's how we start off.
It's also award season.
We're getting there, absolutely. And man, you want to talk about one that broke the bank. We're here today to discuss the 2010 critical darling and social butterfly supernova that is The Kids Are All Right at towering 93%. It's basically a story about how lesbians have problems too.
Well, lesbians have problems too, and
men are evil.
And men are evil.
Men ruin everything.
The biggest of those problems, men.
Men.
Boo. Not even if you're Mark Ruffalo.
And boy, does he go for it. Before we get into it, if this is your first time listening, one, welcome and thank you. And our podcast is in 2 parts here. Our whole mission statement to rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. We always start off with Contrarians Corner, where we find a movie that's either certified fresh or one of those big splotches of green, and we argue our case against the general consensus. If you want to know what we really think, this will be in the second half, what we refer to as Real Talk. For this particular episode, for myself, I'm not too sure that the two sides are going to differ too much.
If you've been listening for a while, then you already know how Alex feels about The Kids Are Alright. I think I've been more cautious about what I say about the movie because I hadn't seen it since it came out. Unlike Alex, I don't own it.
Hey, we all make mistakes. That's halfway through the movie. That's why I told her, it was like, fucking joke's on me. I own it. In looking at the box, it was a rental copy, so I was led to believe I must have got that in one of the clearinghouse sales at Blockbuster when they were like 10 for $1 trying to get rid of everything.
Please come into our store.
We got to get rid of these 6,000 copies of The Kids Are All Right. Okay, so starting off here at 93%, this is a whopper. So, Julio, as you do with our quotes, what were the critics saying?
What were the critics saying? So we're going to do the positive quotes since it's a fresh movie. And then if you stick around for Real Talk, you'll get to hear the very few rotten quotes. But here we start with Tom Long from Detroit News, who says, definitions of family, love, and friendship all get put to the test with wit and warmth in The Kids Are Alright, one of the year's most honest and endearing films.
He forgot another W word with wit and warmth, white.
It's implied. This was 1993. Steve Erickson from Nashville Scene says Lisa Cholodenko's The Kids Are Alright suggests what mainstream cinema could be in a kinder world.
What? I don't know what that noise was I made, but that literally makes no sense to me.
It's a kinder world.
That's a Brandon Curtis line right there.
It's a kinder world where gay women have sex with
the Hulk?
with males.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that fantasy world first witness in Chasing Amy, which we also tackled about 10 episodes ago.
We did. And man, you want to talk about the positive end and the negative end. This is like both ends of the spectrum cover. We should have done these back to back.
Didn't think so. When we re-edit the Contrarians run, we'll reshuffle the episodes.
When we go through for the Criterion release.
Yeah. The Contrarians, the gay episodes. Chase Whale from chasewhale.com says, I want to high-five the person who cast Benning and Moore as a couple. Their scenes are the most delicious parts of the film.
Was that a dude?
Chase Whale. I mean, it could go either way. Dr. Chase Meridian.
Delicious? Used to describe them?
He also misspelled Annette Benning's last name because it's only one N, and then even worse, he misspelled their scenes. He wrote as they are scenes. So I think he was high.
Typing with one hand while he was watching this movie.
What the hell? I just realized I got two quotes from the same guy back to back because also Chase
Awesome.
Whale from Gordon and the Whale. He had a mini empire in the early 90s. I wonder what Chase Whale is up to now.
Watching The Kids Are All Right, apparently.
Well, Chase Whale, again, this time in Gordon and the Whale, says, we're shown real-life problems in a fictional story that gives us real-life solutions. Bravo, Lisa. Your film is more than all right.
It's Juno. It's lesbian Juno.
Jason Best from Movie Talk says, The Kids Are All Right is witty, touching, and humane, and decidedly up to the minute. Up to the 1993 minute, do you think?
1993.
I'm sorry. No, I've been saying 93 like fuck, what was this? 2010.
Where'd you get 93?
Yeah, why did I get 93?
I don't know.
Man, let's scrap this. Let's start from the beginning. I'll just edit every time I say 93. 2010. All right.
Falcons.
Sean Burns from Philadelphia Weekly. It's a happy, horny movie that loves its characters and their messy human imperfections. You will too.
This movie does not love Mark Ruffalo.
I mean, he got to have a lot of sex in this movie. Out of everybody, if you measure the love a movie has for a character by the amount of sex scenes that they give him or her, then this movie loves Mark Ruffalo more than anybody else.
This movie is like a Rob Zombie on its side of hating men.
Jeff Bayer, the Scorecard Review, says, I love that this is a film about a family where being gay isn't a controversy.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do appreciate about the movie is you don't get bludgeoned.
It was like, you know what?
There's not any scene, like, it paints to me a better version of like what society should be, where it's not a deal, because it shouldn't be a deal.
It was the writers. They were like, "It's 2010. We're past this in America. Let's explore other issues."
There's no way anything can go wrong in 6 years.
And finally, Matt Gladsby from flicks.co.nz says, "How, despite such a talented femme-centric cast, does Ruffalo's lovable idiot manage to walk off with the film?"
He is a doofus, a lovable doofus.
All right.
So,
like the kids, all right.
And it's all right.
Right.
Not the kids are all right.
Because that's
a Who song.
A Who documentary, too.
Okay. And that was originally, no.
I really hope that we made it very clear which the kids are all right we were doing in this episode. We didn't have a whole bunch of Contrarians listeners just watching a documentary about the Who, wondering, how are they going to be negative about this?
The best part is if we did like a swerve where we just record the whole thing, but then at the end be like, we weren't talking about the Who movie. Isn't there an Offspring song also called The Kids Are All Right?
Maybe, yeah.
Offspring fucks hard, man. Love that band. So anyway, let's get to this. 93%, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, that's where I got the 93.
Oh, that's where you're coming from? 1993?
1993.
It broke the Rotten Tomatoes. It went so high. It went to 1,993%.
And back in time.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Kids are all right. Lesbians fight. Mark Ruffalo shows up, ruins everything. Then he leaves, and everything's fine.
Let's go to real talk.
That's it.
There is more to it than this, Alex. Come on.
Not much. Nick and Jules are two lead characters, played by Annette Bening and Julianne Moore, respectively, are just parents, run-of-the-mill married couple. Annette Bening's the classically...
what do you call them? Type A's? Like the people that are just, a little uptight, very intellectual.
She's uptight, yeah. I mean, it's...
the boring adult one.
It's a very, very formulaic couple for a movie. And that, yeah, she's the by-the-books, very classically trained one, and then Julianne Moore with her fiery red hair and her thick frame glasses, and she is a rebel. She's the housewife but wants to buck the system and
she's trying to
start
figure
her
out
own
what
business.
to do with her life.
Yeah, exactly.
She's Chandler, and Annette Bening is Monica.
Pretty much.
And they couldn't have kids, so
yeah. It paints a picture quickly of them being just like any other married couple, like they have troubles, with their sex life. It's thwarted because they have the children in the home with them.
But what children? I mean, they have
the
very
children that are all
children.
right. Yes,
they're just all right. They're future superstars.
Yes, their children. Joni, played by Mia. Is it Wachowska?
I think it's Wachowska.
Wachowska.
Alice.
Yeah, Lawless. And then Laser. Because we weren't establishing them as progressive enough. Their son is named Laser. I'm assuming they live in Austin, and he goes to one of the frou-frou schools where you get to name yourself when you're 5.
We just offended the one listener we have named Laser.
Some guy in Guam. This is bullshit.
Fuck you, man. I thought you were cool.
Josh Hutcherson,
I think.
Yeah.
From Hunger Games.
Yeah, Hunger Games.
Whatever
fame.
his name is. He's useless in Hunger Games. He's pretty much useless in this
Isn't
movie.
it like TP?
What?
Isn't his name like Pepe or TP or something?
Pita.
Okay.
Pita, like the bread.
Okay. Yeah, so...
And he is, and I think in the Hunger Games, he's like a baker. So, wow, that movie is more clever than I gave it credit for.
So he's 15, she's 18, she's getting ready to go to college. She was the all-star student.
She's like the mini Annette Bening.
Yes. And then, because they don't beat you over the head with that enough, yes, she's Annette Bening and he's Julianne Moore. And he has a friend named Clay that they're weary about his relationship with. The fucking opening credits, they're snorting scripts, man. And that's pretty wild for a 15-year-old.
And then they go skateboarding.
Then it was like
Did they go
really,
retro?
really shitty weed and a 40 of Bud Ice is usually all you could score in my day.
Yeah, but Alex, this is
a progressive movie.
Yeah, but also I think the movie, you nailed it. It's
all
really,
right.
It's all right, but it's also telling you, I understand. Listen, I'll give it this. Its heart is in the right place, but in its overzealousness to tell you that, hey, lesbian couples are just like any other couple, it kind of goes a little overboard in selling that, and so it almost comes across as like, man, lesbian couples they don't have their shit together. It's like you watch this kid snorting shit, and he's friends with a guy that's a complete douchebag, and he can't see it. And the first thing you think of is like, well, of course, right? He doesn't have a male figure of authority to look up to, so he looks up to this asshole, right? I don't think that's the intent of the movie.
No.
But that's what happens because, there's not a single loving moment between Annette Bening and Julianne Moore in this movie. Even when they try a little bit, it falls apart. So I think that they went a little over the line in trying to make them relatable, and trying to destroy the mysticism of the lesbian couple. They just made him like even more incompetent than the rest of us at parenting.
Yeah, the laser kid has some issues socially. He's 15 though. I mean, I think was one of the more unexplored parts of the movie is how they adapt to raising a 15-year-old boy, because that's like from like 11 to 15 is literally the worst part of any boy's life ever. So as far as hormonally,
if they come out of it,
yes, exactly. If they make it through,
the best case scenario.
That's why I say it's Juno. Yeah, there's these real issues at the heart of it, but it's cloaked in this unrealistic, way too pixie manic dream girl, whatever the fucking phrase is.
Pixie manic dream actress vying for an Oscar.
4 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Well, Juno had Best Picture also, and Best Actress.
Could it be, Alex? The Academy's right and you're wrong.
Not according to the moniker of this podcast, or the catchphrase, rather. Moving along. Laser and Joni, obviously there's not a man in the picture, but there had to be at one point in time. We come to find out that both Nick and Jules used the same sperm donor. They both were impregnated at one point in time. I believe that's the trail. We were trying to figure out the family tree about halfway through it.
Yeah.
Laser specifically, Joni doesn't really seem to have an overwhelming interest in it, but Laser wants to meet the sperm donor.
Because he's the boy. He's an idiot.
Yes. Well, he's young and curious. I think she probably had that inkling at one point in time, and to your point also, the picture they paint early, he may just want to have some sort of authoritative male presence in his life. So he has to have Joni do it because she's 18, he's 15. They call the sperm bank and say, hey, what the fuck? Who did this to us? Who's our dad?
Who did this to us? Who brought us into
what man did this? And so they go meet their dad, our Kramer-haired Jesus.
Enter Mark Ruffalo.
Man, Bruce Banner steps on screen.
I think as I was watching this movie and he stepped in, because we'd spent a solid 10 minutes already with movie characters,
yes.
Right? And then Ruffalo walks in and you can almost smell him. He's so relatable. If there's such a thing as a stereotypical average guy, that is Mark Ruffalo. Mm-hmm. And they, even here where he is supposed to be like this kind of cool guy, he's not cool in a way that's unattainable, right? I mean,
no.
Mark Ruffalo looks like me in a way, you know what I mean? Like not exactly like me, but he's not in great shape in this movie.
But
he's like fucking hairy and unkempt and whatever. It's like if I had, Mark
he's
Ruffalo
got the bad
money,
boy thing going, but he's got the Kramer hair and he's got the good 5 o'clock shadow.
It's like I can do that if I had the money and the resources and like the willpower. You know what I mean? It's not like, you see like action stars, whatever. Like they're really high. Like I'm never gonna be like Fassbender,
The Rock,
or The Rock. Well, okay, that's even.
Fassbender will never be The Rock.
Yeah, but Ruffalo, he's like an everyman.
Yeah.
You can at least fool yourself into thinking that you could get there.
And the movie sends that really weird mixed message of, well, he never got married or had kids, and his life's pretty awesome. He has this cool house. He has a good job. He has plenty of money. He rides a motorcycle.
He has
awesome sex with hot women. Yeah.
He has the kind of cool sex where you just get like, you don't even get to watch the entire thing because it would be too much. It's like the kind of awesome sex that can only be consumed by an audience in like tiny montages.
You just need like a 15-second little, because, especially that scene where we're right in the peanut gallery. Him and Julianne Moore, you're looking right down Main Street, baby.
That's where you got to the box office early. You got to pick the best seats.
But he meets them, says, "Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do."
Just because.
Yeah.
There's really no rhyme or reason. Why would you do that to yourself?
Every time Ruffalo speaks on the phone in this, it's usually something pivotal's happening when he's talking on the phone, but he's always like doing something. It's like fucking Jim Sturgis in that Geostorm movie. He's like always running in from something and somewhat out of breath. And this one, Mark Ruffalo is always on the phone, and his hands are usually always dirty. And
he's like flossing,
and he's trying to make these crucial life-changing decisions. And yeah, whatever.
I'll meet them.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Meets them. The first impression is kind of rough. They kind of bounce around, talk about sports, school, shit like that. But Joni seems to really like him, thinks he's really cool. But Laser's not quite sold on him yet. I think he was just kind of overwhelmed by the whole thing.
That's the movie trying to be clever and upend our expectations. Because obviously the boy was the most excited to watch meet him, and then of course he's the one that's less impressed. Mm-hmm. Do you think it was just that Ruffalo's like animal magnetism turned him off?
I don't know. It could just be
I mean, a 15-year-old, you would feel threatened. So
Oh.
It's like you're meeting the leader of the pack, and you're like, is he about to kill me?
Well, he, for all intents and purposes, Laser's the alpha at his house, and then Ruffalo shows up and he's like, "Oh fuck!"
And right, he was right to distrust him because Ruffalo wreaks havoc.
He let the true alpha in. Moms, as they refer to them throughout the movie, Laser and Joni refer to them in couple as moms. One, they are heavily against motorcycles, and that's the first straw that's plucked. Paul drives this motorcycle. Cool guy, Paul. They think Laser's gay because he's spending so much time with his friend Clay. Did not mean for that to rhyme. I don't know why they would just assume that right off the bat.
I don't understand, because this whole sequence is just basically, it's based on...
He's given them no reason to think... what we've seen in the movie, he's given them no reason to think that they're like romantically involved.
But even if he was giving them reason, the way that they handle this is just... I mean, you two are gay. You should know better. Instead, they make it really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
If he was really gay, they're not really giving him a reason to come out to them. Instead, they're just making it weird. Of course, he makes it weird, too, because he's rummaging through their room.
Yeah, he tells Clay that his mom smoked pot, so they're looking for it, and he comes across their sex toys in a porno movie that they both start watching, and it's a gay male porno that apparently Annette Bening and Julianne Moore watch when they're feeling in the mood.
So is this like, you think, is this a bit of like research? Like when we're doing Donnie Brasco, we're like, oh, that guy, he learned about Fugazi and he had to put that in the movie. And here, do you think that when the writers were doing the research, they came across the fact that gay women prefer to get off to gay male porn because that's not faked?
It could be one of those things, because that's something that I have no knowledge of. So it's maybe like a writer came across that and was like, my God, we've struck gold here. We have to put it in the movie.
Let's reveal this to the world. It's easily the most memorable part of the movie for me.
Jesus.
Well, because that has like real life application. Now like something that's actually true in the real world.
Yeah,
again, if it's true.
Well, that's... in a slight bit of real talk,
there's only one way to know.
It's not our area to really know much of.
Let's say one way to know. Gay female listeners, let us know.
Well, through that scene, it's revealed basically all that clumsiness and awkwardness just to be revealed that Laser and Joni met up with their biological father. And so the moms aren't really cool with it. They're kind of freaking out. This scene, it reminded me a lot of, what's that movie we really don't like? Julianne Moore is also in it. Steve Carell. Crazy Stupid Love.
Oh, yeah.
And like it's trying to paint this really serious scene, but then they're like tripping over each other's words and misunderstanding, and it's like, okay, this is just Benny Hill shit at this point. So they discover that they met Paul. Let's see. So they want to have Paul over for lunch, and he's awesome, and they're not sure what to make of it. Annette Bening doesn't like him. They tell the story about how they both first met, Annette Bening and Julianne Moore. Clear violation of the
doctor-patient, what do you call that?
Hippocratic oath.
Yeah, the full relationship, professional relationship.
Yeah, and taking full advantage of the doctor-patient relationship.
And Ed Benning, her tongue was numb.
Yeah.
And they're just... No, Julianne Moore's tongue was numb.
They're just telling these tales of cunnilingus loudly in front of their children.
It's really weird because...
Implied cunnilingus.
Yeah, I mean, they get drunk eventually, or at least Annette Bening does.
Dude, Annette Bening is a raging alcoholic in this film.
But...
She's fucking Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, before she goes full Cage, though.
And fucking Mark Ruffalo is Elizabeth Shue, here to save the day.
I don't know that it works that way.
Did I misunderstand the meaning of Leaving Las Vegas?
Was it not about how cool it is to drink and make new friends? Because that's kind of Annette Bening's arc here. before she gets wasted though, and it starts just being way too just sharing too much information with everybody. She's grilling Ruffalo pretty hard, and it's kind of weird because I wrote in my notes. I wrote, "This is the most awkward job interview for a job that you already had." He's already their donor, right? He already did. Like they can't like fire him for that. He already has that connection to the kids. So like the worst that can happen is that they can forbid the kids to see him, but as Alice in Wonderland keeps reminding them, she's 18 now, so she's her own person. She can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, her throwing that around is like the Vietnam movie where the person keeps saying, you know, I just got my girl and my kid back home. I can't wait to get back to him.
I will not die.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if that's going to play off at any point. During this dinner or lunch, looks like a late lunch, early dinner, Jules explains that she wants to get in the landscaping business, and Mark Ruffalo, cool guy Paul, says, you know, I've got this backyard that I need help with. Can you help out? And Julianne Moore, I think, originally thinks he's just, you know, humoring her, taking pity upon her, so she says no. And then, I mean, Mark Ruffalo knows what he's doing from the start here, planting these seeds. He's like, well, if you're not up to it, then, you know, I can find someone else.
Okay, so I was gonna ask you, and this is, I guess, it's a little bit of real talk in Contrarians Corner. Do you think that he's aiming to score from the very beginning there, or is he trying to be a good guy?
That's certainly what the movie would lead you to believe, because this movie leads you to believe that men are inherently bad and that all they want is sex, which is like that predates like Jeff Foxworthy comedy that, you know, all men are good for is sex, or that's all they want.
He's like, well, if you don't think you're up to it, and he grabs his dick.
Very odd propositioning. And Annette Bening, I think that's another thing I've caught on this go around. She like, I guess she sees it from the start because she's trying to divert any trains of thought that could lead that way.
She keeps going, like looking back and forth between Julianne Moore and Ruffalo. She's like Gary Sinise at the end of Reindeer Games, looking back and forth between Charlize Theron and Ben Affleck. It's like, what's going on here? I don't know, but I don't like it.
Much better movie. Jules agrees to do Paul's backyard. That's not a euphemism yet.
Yet.
Paul begins spending more time with his biological children, Laser and Joni, just getting accustomed to them, getting to know them, being a part of their life. Jules begins work on Paul's backyard. There's just palpable tension from the word go.
And they have the most fucked up exchange in the whole movie is when Julianne Moore says, "You remind me of my kids."
And that's when she gets attracted to him.
Right. If you know what's happening, and we've both seen this movie already, that line is just, to call it weird is being generous.
And this is where it starts, of especially having seen it before, when you really do realize that the Paul character should have been played by Jim Caviezel, because for all intents and purposes, this is Mark Ruffalo playing the Jesus Christ of white male actors, being crucified for the sins, and you know it's necessary at the end of the day. It's hundreds of years of white men getting away with whatever they want on film. In this movie, no, we're nailing you to the fucking wall. You will bear this cross that you have brought. And Ruffalo knew it. He signed up for it.
I mean, he got paid for it.
Handsomely.
I'm sure half the budget was just Ruffalo, because he's like, if I'm going to do this.
And I was going to say, and he got to kiss Julianne Moore, who's a beautiful woman, but at the same time, she won in that bet too, because Mark Ruffalo, my God, especially in this.
His
looks literally cannot be tamed in this movie. They're talking about vegetation, and again, this movie's like Cloverfield. It works really well one time, but when you've seen it, you're going back through. You're like, all right, let's get to it.
We know you're gonna hook up, and you're gonna hook up hard. So let's skip all the foreplay.
The first day they're there, there's just a really awkward kiss. Like it's a college party kiss is what I call it, because they start like opposite sides of the room, but they just slowly start inching towards one another, acting like nothing's gonna happen.
They do the thing where they're fighting over the pie, right? He made some apple pie or strawberry pie, and so he's trying to give it to her so that the kids can have some, and she's trying to give it back, and so there's this back and forth, push and pull, and then we're kissing.
Yeah. You want to know the difference between a male filmmaker and a female filmmaker? The Mark Ruffalo character in this is pretty much Jon Favreau in Chef, and look at the difference in tone of that movie and this movie.
Well, I mean, Jon Favreau, love him and everything, but it's like different strengths there.
Yeah.
Ruffalo is playing with
I would
Ruffalo,
believe that Mark Ruffalo had a situation where he was stuck with either Sofia Vergara or Scarlett Johansson. Jon Favreau, not so much.
He was a great chef.
He was. He made those cubanos really well.
Yeah. This.
Not stuck in a situation that's very. I gotta be careful how I word things. In a romantic involvement with Sofia Vergara or Scarlett.
No, you're
Johansson.
stuck in the situation of having to decide. Like,
if that's your problem, I would definitely want to have that problem.
There are a lot of movies, and this is going back to what Ruffalo is paying, how he's paying for all our sins. Here, there are a lot of movies where the plot is this white guy has to decide between two gorgeous women. So,
and Ruffalo's here, man, just dragging the cross, just. I'm doing this for all of you.
He does get my favorite moment in the movie, I think, and I called it out while we were watching it, which is they kiss, they break off the kiss. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe we did this. And she runs off. And then Ruffalo has this shit-eating grin, which is so true. It's like, it's the look, it's the grin of a white straight guy that just got away with kissing a lesbian.
Yeah.
He's going to brag about it.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. He has that, oh man face, like, oh. Gee whiz.
Nailed it.
It's good to be a straight white man. That's the face he has. And eventually this does lead, the next day she shows up and is apologizing for what happened, and it just leads to them full on coitus. And man, it's
coitus doesn't do it justice.
I wouldn't say brutal, but it's
intense.
Very passionate lovemaking.
Yeah, which is kind of, once again, I understand that the whole thesis behind this movie is that lesbian couples are just like us. So of course they have a shitty sex life. Just because they're lesbians doesn't mean that they're always on, right? And so before this happens, there's like this interlude where Annette Bening is trying to make up to Julianne Moore for being such a shit, right? For being so like just nasty,
inattentive.
So she makes her a bath. And for being a raging alcoholic.
And then she finds her in the kitchen with a huge glass of wine.
She drops the ball majorly, right? It's like she was almost there. Julianne Moore had almost already forgotten everything bad that she had done. And then she takes a phone call in the kitchen, and then Julianne Moore is just like left to prune in the bath.
Yeah.
So then, of course, contrast that with the vigorous sex that she has with Ruffalo.
Yeah, I mean, in situations like that, grass is always greener type of thing. But when you got the Hulk just on top of you, pumping and sweating, I mean,
right. But talk about
overcompensating.
I mean, it's like I already got your point, movie. You don't need to go the extra mile and just showing Mark Ruffalo as this god of sex.
This sexual tyrannosaur.
Right. I mean, how much more
with
interesting...
an appetite that would make Mike Douglas seem gay.
Wouldn't it have been more interesting if the sex was also pretty lame with Ruffalo, but she was still getting more out of it? Mm-hmm. It's just like they're missionary, and Ruffalo is just like on top, kind of like thrusting. And
I want to hear you breathing.
And yeah, Julianne Moore is like really into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? That would have made the movie a lot more interesting. But instead, they kind of stacked the deck, right?
Yeah.
It's like, of course, Ruffalo's gonna be great at sex because that way he's definitely
he literally
edge.
manhandles her, like picks her up and throws her into bed and whatnot. But that's what it was building to. That was the climax, no pun intended. They continue on this relationship while things seem to get more and more distance between Jules and Nick. Jules tries to cut it off at one point, but that leads to like I'm almost positive it was in the trailer, but it's like the go-to fucking buddy fuck comedy.
We should stop this.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm pretty sure that, and then it cuts to them in bed with the sheet pulled up to their neck, or one of them smoking a cigarette. I'm pretty sure that was in the trailer for Just Friends and Friends with Benefits. And
it's the poster of It's Complicated.
It is
Meryl Streep and Alec Baldwin.
What's the movie with Justin Timberlake and Jackie? What's her name? She's fucking beautiful. That 70s show.
So wait, Just Friends is Kelso and Natalie Portman, right?
That's Friends with Benefits. Is Just Friends the one with Timberlake?
And then Just Friends is Timberlake and Mila Kunis?
Mila Kunis. Fuck, man. That movie was on the other day, and I was having to explain the premise to my dad. It's like, okay, so Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis can't find people to have sex with, so they have to have sex with one another, because Hollywood is completely logical. Here nor there.
Well, somewhere in there, because we're talking about just...
Basically, I'm saying this movie's no better than those. for this particular trope.
I mean, you're trying to be like edgy and like give us like new ideas and new like configurations for families and whatever, but then you fall on like a really tired
the
sex
more
joke.
we're talking about this, more I'm thinking about this is, I think, comparable in some respects to Crazy Stupid Love in that, it builds up. You're trying to buck the system with this different type of movie, then you fall back on these cliches and whatnot. Paul admits that he's falling for Jules. She's like, "Are
you fucking 18?"
Yeah, she's fucking very Han Solo in this scene. I really dug this, actually. He's like, "I love you." And I know.
Where are my cigarettes?
My note just here says, "Nick be drinking." Is this when they go out to dinner and she's just pounding him back?
Yeah, I think that right before this is the big MAGA moment of the movie where some poor like Hispanic gardener, he's just like a casualty of war here.
Oh, yeah.
He happens to be the guy that's doing the actual work while Julianne Moore is having sex with Mark Ruffalo. And I don't know, the movie doesn't make it clear if he's figured out what's happening
or if he's just a happy guy.
He's just a happy guy, but Julianne Moore reads his smile as judgmental of what she's doing, so she fires him. Yeah,
she projects her anxiety and paranoia onto him and
just uses her white power to just like get him out of there.
Poor dude. We don't see him again.
There's no
get the men out of here.
Yeah.
Man. That's the tale of the movie. The man's gone, we don't see him again.
That's true. But also, yeah, because when they're having the it's complicated, just friends with benefits scene, I think it starts with her saying, "I shouldn't have fired him. That was not right." Mm-hmm. But she doesn't rehire him.
So they go to Nick and Jules go to dinner with a group of friends, or just a married couple, excuse me,
that we've never seen before.
Nope, and don't really understand what they're talking about. And
never see him again either.
It's a man, so once it's gone, it's got to stay gone. Nick is just drinking incessantly to the point of concern.
When offered green tea, she's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Jules has to literally intervene to try to stop it, and they get into a discussion about, are you even attracted to me anymore? We're so distanced. Nick realizes she needs to be more open with Paul. She's expressed her dislike in the amount of time everyone's spending with him, so she and also goes off the rails when she sees Joni riding on the back of his motorcycle. So she says, "Let's have dinner at Paul's place. I'm going to try to be better." Makes what appears to be a very well-intended opening and a well-intended plea for compromise, or peace, rather.
This is Annette Bening finally. It's pretty late in the movie, but she finally
does something besides drink
and just be angry, right?
Yeah.
She like turns on the charm, and you're finally like, okay, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be a fun human being to be around. You're not just watching National Geographic and pounding 3 bottles of wine every night.
Yeah, like she talks about music she liked in college with Paul, and they start singing.
It's like, dude, no, please, no more singing scenes in movies that are not musicals. It's just an embarrassment to everybody involved. It's just...
She sang a cappella version in New York, New York, and then it cut to Mark Ruffalo with a single tear rolling down his eye. She begins opening up. She is having fun. You can tell just by reading her face, Jules is becoming extremely paranoid because they're at the scene of the crime. Nick gets up to use the bathroom. She finds Jules' hair in Paul's hairbrush, and then she puts on her glasses, gets out her pipe and magnifying glass, and becomes
she finds a trail
Sherlock
of red
Holmes.
hair.
Yeah, it's literally like that. She finds a trail. It's in his drain, his sink drain. She finds hair in his bed. She finds her scrunchie. I mean, it's never really addressed, but I think we should be concerned the volume of which Julianne Moore is losing her hair at.
You know, he was pulling her hair at some point in one of the sex scenes. She was asking him to pull her hair.
Oh.
So
the dude's got Hulk strength, doesn't she know? And I think that was the first Hulk joke. I had plenty more. I've been working on it all day. So they pack up, they go home. She has it in her head what's going on, so she confronts Jules. It's not Jules. Bless her, she doesn't really do too much to try to argue or debunk her crazy theory. She just kind of breaks down, and they have a big This Is 40-esque fight.
A big emotional meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, even like at this climatic moment, it just kind of decides to betray its protagonist and be just like, no, let's just let them be girls and have a good cry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then on top of that, do it within earshot of the kids.
Well, the kids are fucking snooping. They open the door and the kids are just standing there. And Mia Wasikowska takes off running, but fucking Laser, Josh Hutcherson, is like a fucking cockroach. He just stands still and or not a cockroach, but a mouse. He just gets frozen and stares up. Doesn't even say anything. So Paul finds out because he calls Joni, and Joni just kind of reads him the rights and tells him, fuck off, don't call me again, you're a loser, you fucked everything up. So in the infinite idiocy of the Paul character, he calls Jules and says, all right, cool, it's out in the open, we can just go for it now. And again, Julia, she hangs up on him, right?
Right, she doesn't even she just rolls her eyes and then hangs up the phone.
And then she goes, men,
roll
the credits.
I don't think the movie realized how unsympathetic she's coming across as. You know what I mean? Like, the movie is obviously, its cards are dealt by now, and they're all exposed. And it's clear that Ruffalo is the villain of the piece here, right? But it's hard not to feel bad for him because he's just so earnest about the whole thing.
Yeah.
About this relationship. It's like, I already mentioned Chasing Amy earlier. It's like he watched Chasing Amy, and it was like, if it can work for Affleck, it can work for me.
Well, it also, what tries to do here, it tries to manipulate the story and saying he did this for vindictive reasons, or he was trying to fuck shit up, whereas the movie so far has painted you just to think he's just this doofus that...
Right, because it's not that he just wanted to fuck her and then move on. Instead, it's no, he had feelings, and those feelings grew, and now he's really into it.
Yeah. Right? He's the one that likes her.
She's the one that played with his heart.
Basically,
she was all pull my hair.
Taking the responsibility off of her and placing it, just again, another nail in the cross. And again, this is all earned for white male actors everywhere. White men in general. Movies like this have to exist. So Joni ends up going out and getting drunk at a party that night. She's all upset, and this is the only scene in the movie where she really rebels in any nature. Yeah, she rode on a motorcycle, but she comes back drunk from this party and gives both Nick and Jules the what for, calls Nick a drunk, says Jules can't, you fucked up the family, you can't tell me what to do type of thing. And then I think she says, I'm 18 and I'm an adult and I can do what I want, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? We'd missed that bit of information. I mean, the movie just opened with a celebration of your 18th birthday, I think.
So then we quickly wrap up the summer. And it's the last family dinner before Joni leaves for school. Does it say do they say at any point in time where she's going?
No.
Does it say where they live? Is it California, I assume?
It sounds like a California kind of family with the California kind of problems.
The style and the scenery.
This dinner seems very okay. It's like we're coming off a succession of emotional scenes where nothing was resolved. And yet here they are around the dinner table, kind of joking around a little bit. They seem okay. They're talking, and once again you're like, what is this? I know they're supposed to be relatable, but this doesn't come across as what real people do, right?
Yeah.
You don't, when you have a big fight and a daughter tells her parents that they're horrible people, they suck, one's a drunk, the other one's a cheater, you're not just having dinner the next day like nothing happened.
Yeah. Well, we don't know it's the next day. It could be 3 months later. Time is not linear in this movie.
That is true, but it is within. I mean, it can't be too far gone because Ruffalo, it's still he looks like he looked like in the previous scene.
Incredible. A broken man.
A broken man that has. I guess it could take you a long time to get over Julianne Moore.
It's fair. She's quite a gal. So Paul shows up. He knows that Joni's getting ready to leave. He shows up, and
it's like, can we at least be Facebook friends?
And Joni goes to answer the door, and he's got the poster boards with the different words, and he starts playing the Christmas Carol and, saying, don't tip off your moms that I'm here. And he asks, if we can just still see each other. I'm sorry about what I did. I'm shamed, blah, 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 blah. And she says, I don't know. I just wish you could have been better, which...
it's basically
Mia Wasikowska. The kids are all right.
Oh man, because this is our last scene, which means we've already skipped over his Al Pacino moment earlier.
Oh yeah, where he gets off the phone with it's one of these things. If you watch the movie, you'll know how just incredible it is comedically. He gets off the phone with Joni after knowing everything, and then some girl that
works for him.
Yeah, is like, hey, check out these kooks, and he's no. He doesn't have time for it. Yeah. And for those that, if it's your first time listening, when we say the Pacino moment, we're referencing in Righteous Kill, where Robert De Niro goes to call the cops because Al Pacino's shot, and Al Pacino stops him and just says, don't. Amongst the greater moments of that man's career.
Yeah.
Alfonso Pacino for Righteous Kill. So Paul shows up. Joni says, fuck off. Nick comes out and goes full Clint Eastwood and Unforgiven on him, just saying, no, if you come near my family again, I'm going to burn down your barn and kill your wife.
This is really the movie abandoning any sort of pretense to subtext, and this is just really women everywhere telling men everywhere how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you were better. Come fuck with me again, and I'll end you.
Yes.
That was the world 2010.
Yep, and again, she's treating... Nick is projecting onto Paul that his whole intention from the get-go is to ruin their family.
Yeah.
And
Ruffalo is just, I mean...
And Julianne Moore's just like watching from behind the curtain like, oh shit, I caused all that.
I guess I'm off the hook. Poor Ruffalo, they slam the door in his face. And then there's like the curtain. I can't even say it with a straight face, dude. It's just so ridiculous. The curtain is still... kind of, he can see through like a little bit of the window, and he sees Laser,
and he gives him the chicks, man. That's the face he gives him. And then Laser gets up, and this just stuck with me. It was clearly a prop plate because he like turns his plate vertically, and all the food stays perfectly in place. But yeah, he hates him. So even like the one bro hug moment we could have in the movie is taken away.
Why must we be so divisive in our movies? Why not just embrace the fact that we're all fucked up? Everybody makes mistakes. I mean, literally, the next scene in the movie is Julianne Moore literally just getting off the hook by giving like a good Oscar speech.
She does the Forrest Gump speech. I may not be a smart woman, but I know what love is. It's pretty much what she says. She says, marriage is hard. You make mistakes. You fuck up along the way, but I love your mother and I love you kids. And it's like, man, why couldn't Mark Ruffalo have the same sympathy?
Right. He was trying.
He was.
I mean, if you had let him speak.
Just drowning him out. But again, for all the shit white men have done, we deserved to watch Mark Ruffalo take that verbal ass whipping.
His last bit in the movie is just kind of perplexing. Right?
He goes out and he's mad and he throws his helmet at his motorcycle.
Right. And is this the movie's attempt at showing us the true face of Ruffalo, right? Underneath all the cool, he was just ready to throw a tantrum, right? He throws his helmet at the motorcycle. It's like, God damn it. And the dogs start barking.
That's right. And then he's, Mickey!
A very undignified exit from the movie.
That's putting it very lightly. The only thing that could have gone better is if, he gets on the bike and he's out of gas and both his tires are flat. And then it's raining and the truck drives by and splashes him. So they go and drop Joni off at college, roll the credits.
Pretty much. I
mean, it's over 90 minutes, so it qualifies as a feature-length film. This last scene's really weird, though. That they drop her off. They're helping her unpack. She's like...
Leave me alone for a minute.
And then there's just this really weird, drawn-out thing of her, looking for him. And they're like, oh, we had to move the car, so we're over here now.
I mean, at this point, you already got rid of Ruffalo. There's no point in stretching the tension, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like we think that they really abandoned her in college.
No.
For any flaw that they might have had.
That's the alternate scene. Julianne Moore turns to Annette Bening. He's like, she's all right. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, fuck her. Get in the car and they leave later in the college as well. That was the last bit of the movie, actually. Laser making a joke about how old they are.
Because the last part of the movie has to be a man saying something really stupid and insensitive.
Yeah, and they look at each other like, boys will be boys.
Dudes, man. Yeah, but Joni, to her credit, being possibly the only really pure character in the movie, gets her ending where she stays at college, and then Laser and his two moms drive off into the literal sunset as some Natalie Imbruglia song takes us away.
I wish it'd been Natalie Imbruglia, because then it would have been on a higher note.
Or if it was The Kids Are All Right by The Who. Insert that gif of Kevin from The Office. What a waste. Yeah, all that 93%.
It's a product of its time, our time as well, American time in general. It's just what happens when pop culture and social revolution kind of like intersect. Somebody's got to pay.
And God damn it, it's going to be Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo took the 40 lashes across these 90 minutes of movie.
Bless him for it.
We didn't even get to see him ride off into the sunset.
No,
he just...
His bike was out of gas.
Yeah.
The post-credit scene is him like trying to hitchhike back home. Like he's got the one boot with the big toe sticking out. We'll cook for food.
We'll fuck for food. Trust me, I'm good.
That should have been it. What the post-credit scene should have been is that's all he's good at. So it's the fucking Mark Wahlberg having to jack off for the redneck in Boogie Nights. Let's move this show along.
Let's go to real talk.
So I can repeat everything that I said in this section.
This will be interesting.
It turns out, after all, Paul was just chasing Amy, so to speak.
Is this a good time to talk?
Yeah. No, this is great.
So, how are you? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Wendy at the cryobank was talking about maybe...
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, my brother asked if I'd call you because I'm 18 and he's only 15, which is too young to call. Anyway, he'd like to meet you. Yeah, if you want to.
Your brother?
Yeah, well, technically he's my half-brother. Each of my moms had a kid, with your sperm.
Like in both of them?
Yeah.
Like in two?
Uh-huh, like in gay.
Oh, right on. Right on, yeah, cool. I love lesbians.
And we are recording for Real Talk.
All right, Real Talk on The Kids Are All Right.
Are they?
No. Premiered at Sundance Film Festival in January 2010, was released theatrically on July 30th, 2010. Modest budget of $4 million, box office return of a little under $35 million, it looks like. Apologies if we do butcher the name here. Directed by Lisa Cholodenko. Again, apologize if I fucked that up. Written also by Lisa and Stuart Blumberg. Nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Actress, Annette Bening, Best Supporting Actor, Mark Ruffalo. Thank you. Best Original Screenplay, I want to say. Let me see here.
That sounds right.
Yes. And as I was discussing with Julio when preparing for this, the reason I didn't remember it getting nominated for so much is because it was from the 2011 Oscars, the Oscars we don't talk about, where The King's Speech beat out The Social Network for Best Picture.
Did Social Network get Best Adapted Screenplay? Because I want to say that seems crazy if it hadn't.
Yeah, Aaron Sorkin for Best Adapted. That was also kind of a shit year.
Social Network.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at like some of the acting nominations.
What do you have?
But no, the Best Picture. So King's Speech won over Black Swan, Inception, Social Network, Toy Story 3. Yeah, I'm sorry. This was not a shit year. I would rather watch The Kids Are All Right than The King's Speech again. So there's that.
Oh, wow. We need to rewatch The King's Speech.
And that's also, it birthed the all-time reaction gif of Tom Hooper when he was announced.
Maybe we'll do like a little like
if you don't know,
Tom Hooper arc.
No thanks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch on YouTube when they announced him winning Best Director. He looks like he comes in his pants. Like he's just, it's really.
The Lonely Island song "Jizz in My Pants" is actually based on that.
To quote our multiple time guest Reed, he's never seen anyone want something so bad in his life that Tom Hooper wanted that Oscar.
Except maybe how much Mark Ruffalo wants Julianne Moore in this movie.
God bless. I was trying to think if I found anything trivia-wise. Robin Wright was originally considered for the role of Nick. Mark Ruffalo filmed all his shit in 6 days.
It's a powerhouse performance.
It really is. Ewan McGregor was originally cast to play Paul, which
I think Julianne Moore would have destroyed him.
that's the thing. I truly believe Annette Bening could beat the shit out of Ewan McGregor, so I don't really think that dynamic would work.
I was just thinking of the sex scenes. Julianne Moore would just like
eat him for lunch.
Yeah, he like passes out. She's trying to wake him up. Hey, you're supposed to pull my hair.
The film's title is based on the title of the song "The Kids Are All Right" by The Who. If we didn't make enough jokes about that in the beginning. I think that was about it. I know the whole movie was filmed in under a month, so that in of itself is really impressive. Before we get too deep down the rabbit hole, Julio, what were those lowly 7% saying?
Very few negative quotes, but all of them sound like excerpts from Contrarians Corner here. Megan Basham from World says, "The Kids Are All Right is the height of self-congratulatory, agenda-driven filmmaking.
Whoa.
As such, you can expect to hear from it come Oscar time." She was not wrong.
She was not.
Dorothy Wooden from Detailly, British Columbia, says, "A certain smugness creeps into the corners of The Kids Are All Right. Morality doesn't have to mean Puritanism, but there is something of that here." Michelle Alexandria from Eclipse Magazine says, "The dialogue seems like it was pulled from a magazine full of bad liberal cliches. It feels as if people who used to be progressive, but want people to think they're still progressives, wrote this movie." Nick Shagger from Lessons of Darkness says, "A long-form sitcom overly pleased with its own progressiveness."
That's actually, I wouldn't word it that pretentiously, but that's a really spot on.
I mean, we agree with you, Nick, but fuck you. Matthew Petrovic from Matt's Movie Reviews says, "Sure, the kids are all right, but poor dad has been beaten to a pulp." And finally, Robbie Collin from News of the World simply says, "The critics are all wrong."
Oh, I appreciate you saving that one for last.
Cute.
It may have been Juno. I can't remember what podcast we did or what episode, movie, what have you, that we were talking about, but this movie is guilty of that too. You watch a movie like this, and this is a movie made to win awards.
I don't know. Okay, so now we're in real talk, where
Yes.
I must come out to defend this movie.
Real talk is where we express how we really feel about this movie.
Yeah.
So,
This is your second time watching it?
correct. Third, maybe. No, I wouldn't have. Maybe.
Not counting how many times you've watched the Julianne Moore, Mark Ruffalo sex scenes.
Oh, I've got it all gifed on my phone, man. So I guess we should predicate this with the age of hypersensitivity that we're in. My thoughts on this movie do not at all reflect my social views on anything like that, nor, not the situations in this movie. It's not my opinion on those. I'm not saying that women be dumb, men know what they're talking about. Because, like I said, one of the things I do applaud about the movie is the fact that they are a gay married couple is the least.
Right, that is not. That's not part of the plot.
It's just what I really like how that starts, and it's just like any other movie where, okay, yeah, this is the married couple, this is the mom, and this is, these are the parents in the movie. So positive things. Everyone's really good. Like, all the acting is really good.
The acting is better than I remembered.
It's really good.
This is only my second time watching it, and I mean, I want to say it's been several years since I watched it the first time.
And that's the thing of why I could see myself watching it again, because the acting is so strong.
Has anything? Well, I guess go ahead and finish your
narrative and the. I hate saying the word agenda, because that, unfortunately, in the time since this movie, the 8 years since this movie was made, the word agenda means something almost completely different now than it did back then. And so I wouldn't say the agenda of it, but the narrative and I don't know, and the things that it's really, really, really difficult to say, especially on a podcast, because someone who might be curious what I mean by saying something like, you can tell it's a movie made by a woman. Much like
Juno?
No. I was going to say the other side of the coin, much like the analogy I made earlier. Chef, that's a movie you can clearly tell is made by a man. So saying things like that is difficult to do in a podcast form where someone could potentially take it out of context. So got to choose my words wisely as far as that goes. The narrative of it all, to me, is not balanced, and the movie's hypocritical in the stances that it wants to take with the different characters.
See, I will help you elaborate, because I remember feeling that way well, not exactly, but similarly, the first time I watched it, because I had no idea really about anything about this movie other than it was one of the Best Picture nominees, and that somebody had told me that at some point that Ruffalo hooked up with, or maybe the Oscars spoiled it for me. Maybe one of the clips they used was either alluded to Julianne Moore. Yeah, they definitely did not show the sex scene.
That was the year the Oscars aired after 10 p.m.
They saved the Best Actress clips for like after 11.
Jack Nicholson just with the popcorn in the front row.
Uh,
Here we go.
high-fiving Ruffalo. But so the only other thing I knew was that Julianne Moore hooked up with Mark Ruffalo in the movie at some point, right? And so watching it, I remember having this just feeling disconcerted when the movie kind of, at least on that first watch, turned Ruffalo into the villain, right? Because it seemed like it was a movie about 5 people, that they all had their issues, but they all meant well, and how they have to deal with this new dynamic in their lives, right? And then suddenly, not just that the affair happens, but that I think, especially on first watch, you could say that, well, Ruffalo kind of like was going after that from the beginning. Having watched it again, and I asked you during Contrarians Corner, do you think that when he invites her to do his landscaping, it's, he really meant it? And as you were answering, I was like, I don't think he did, because of what the movie does later, right? I think that the filmmaker proves that she's capable enough that if we're supposed to think that, because the movie's not subtle in anything else. Yeah. So I think they would have gone a little bit over the top in showing us that, yeah, definitely Ruffalo wanted to just fuck from the beginning. So I think that instead, it's, if anything, it errs the other way, right? In that it maybe should have made it a little clearer that he had absolutely no interest in Julianne Moore until they connect later. But I do think that the movie doesn't paint him as a villain. It's not intended to put him as a villain. It just paints him as the guy that, well, he just doesn't belong there, And the first time I watched it, it just felt really weird to me that, the movie turned this character that I liked all of them, right? And just kind of like, just mistreated him at the end. And so to me, my memory of The Kids Was Alright was a movie that started like very complex and got very simple at the end. Even the way that Julianne Moore kind of like, it's just forgiven for something that to me, especially on that first watch, was just so like, I don't know, nasty. The sense that, yes, Annette Bening has her flaws and she's overbearing and she's, drinking way too much or whatever, but you should not fuck around on her. Yeah. Right? She's clearly in the right for all her flaws. She's still clearly in the right in that. And the first time watching it was so much harder to see Julianne Moore's side of that. This time around, and I couldn't tell you if it's just that, it's been so many years and, I've, age has changed the way that I perceive certain things, my own experiences or whatever. But I was a lot more forgiving of the fact that Julianne Moore hooks up with Mark Ruffalo. I totally understood. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right, but I understood what she was going through. I understand that, her marriage was on the rocks. And she makes a mistake. I mean, the movie never tells you that it was not a mistake. Yeah. And she has that big speech at the end, which, I mean, like I said, the movie's not subtle. It's just telling you exactly what the movie's about, which is like, it's not about the kids. It's about the marriage, right? And she says, I've forgotten all about this until we were watching it. She says, marriage is really hard. And, the magic goes away and there's a chance that you may not like that person anymore. You change as, and they've been married for 20 years. Her speech to me, it really like justified what the movie does to her. And it takes a very interesting position when it comes to the Ruffalo character, which is like, he is a threat to that family. And I don't care if he's a good guy. I don't care if he means well. I don't care if he didn't intend to cause all this. But in the end, that family needs to protect itself, and cutting him out, roughly in a very straightforward way it's what they need to do, and they do it. So seeing it that way, this time when we got to the end and Ruffalo was just lonely with his motorcycle and frustrated, I didn't feel that the movie was doing him a disservice. I just felt like, well, the movie prioritized what it needed to do, just like this family prioritized what it needed to do. He can scream that it's not fair, but Annette Bening tells him this is not your family. Yeah. I don't think that that he's an interloper. When she tells him you're an interloper, just it makes it sound like there's something a lot shadier, a lot more manipulative in the way that he's been handling this family, and I don't think that that's the case. But she has every right to say that because it's her family and she's just protecting it. So all this to say that I was able to kind of like see where everybody was coming from this time around, much more in sync with I think what the filmmakers were intending than the first time I watched it. So this is actually one of those times where like on rewatch I like the movie a lot better than and there's still plenty for me to make fun of in it, and it is kind of comical. I don't know how intentional it is that Ruffalo ends up being, the Christ figure to to white males everywhere. But I don't think that's an intentional reading. I think that might be like the main difference between how we were like looking at this movie. I don't think that they set out to make the Mark Ruffalo character a villain, because just how the fact that Annette Bening and Julianne Moore are a gay couple is kind of like, it's not an issue. Like, it could have been a straight couple and you would have had the same dynamic in a way. It would have been the same problem. I think the fact that Ruffalo is a white straight male, it's not the point.
No.
I mean, the story works a certain way, obviously, because it's a white straight male, but in the end you could have a straight couple where they find that a sperm donor comes in and it still could alter the dynamics of that family and make it all really weird and create extra conflict. So in that, it could be a sperm donor, it could be like an egg donor, and it could be a completely different. It could be like a surrogate mother or whatever, it could be a female, and then we would be saying, wow, that female is paying for
the sins of white men everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Sounds like a man wrote that movie.
There's no balance. That's my issue with it. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, and like my whole interpretation of Ruffalo being vilified could just be at some point when, I mean, all the little things that really take me out of the movie immediately. The son's name being Laser, like things like that.
I mean, that is like something that's just a quirk too many.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
a bridge too far.
But it's funny because I remember making this argument when we were talking about Juno, and I was defending Juno, and I was saying, as a script reader, somebody that reads scripts and writes scripts, right? You try to encourage writers to not be generic, to try to be memorable, try to saying that to go for the quirk is simplifying it, but you want to be specific. You want to give this character a name that only this character could have, and so I have trouble. It's ridiculous. It makes me laugh. It's really silly, but at the same time, it's like, that's fine that he's named Laser, because it tells you a lot about that character, about Julianne Moore and Annette Bening that named him Laser. Specifically about Julianne Moore, because he's the one that's biologically from her, and also about poor Josh Hutcherson, who has to live being Laser, and it's probably not a coincidence that his character is the least developed and the least like the one that shines the least in this movie, and it's the one that has the quirkiest name.
Yeah, it's your rule though. If a movie has you, you'll go along with whatever. Yeah. So like my thing is like repeated things like that just consistently taking me out of it. Because we talked about it like set the mold for it at least now fits the mold, I should say, for the cliche gay couple movie. But my issue with it is it's not balanced, and it has nothing to do with gender orientation, anything like that. The story's not balanced. You have this family, and I understand the movie's the story of the family, but you introduce this character, and it's he's wrong. That's the story of the movie. He's wrong, they're right. It's kind of, when I was thinking about it, it's Obvious Child, that Jenny Slate movie I really don't like. That was my biggest issue with that movie. There's no balance. This is right. There's no reason to entertain or humor the idea elsewhere.
But I think that he is...
Of course, that's a bit of a different issue, but tonally and in story, it's like fucking Brothers. If Brothers had just ended with crazy Tobey Maguire, it would be like that. There's no balance to it. But then coming back around and balancing it out, and okay, here's the issue. Here's both sides to it. There's possible solutions that we have to do. I fully concede that that's just not the movie they wanted to make.
Right.
So that's the biggest issue.
So do you
that's
think
why it doesn't work for me.
Do you think that you would feel better about it if Ruffalo had some sort of redemption?
Not redemption, but more of just like, because it really, to me, the movie is he's wrong, but Julianne Moore's off the hook.
But not
Fuck
necessarily.
off.
I think that the difference is that Ruffalo doesn't have anybody to listen to his apology, it's like, or that cares for his apology. But I think that as an audience member, you can choose to see him as a somewhat sympathetic character, as I do, and I think that a lot of the critics that like the movie, I mean, I didn't pick those quotes because they were not funny, but a lot of people were just like, they talk about 5 characters when they're talking about the movie, how there are very 5 complex characters that, even if Ruffalo ends up getting kicked out of the band, he's still portrayed in the movie as somebody that's not evil. I think that, like you said, he's an idiot.
That my confusion with that. Your point is why they introduced the whole trope of him like falling in love with her. If it's not going to at least show how this affects him in the end, or that situation. I mean, maybe it's possible I would have gotten more enjoyment out of the story if like maybe he had a family and it showed how it affected them and things like that. I think it's just not balanced. But again, fully conceding that's not the movie they wanted to make.
It's not Mark Ruffalo. It's all right.
Which we all know he is.
He's fine.
It's the justice
He's an Avenger.
It's the justice of the peace. It's and justice for all. There's one way that's way up higher than the other.
I was actually surprised by how much I enjoyed Ruffalo here. I mean, no, that's not true. I mean, it's not a surprise.
Man's a national treasure.
Right. But no, I guess how sympathetic I found his character, because I went in, having seen the movie already, I came in expecting to hate him because, I was like, oh, that's right, he destroys that family, or he almost destroys that family. So now I'm watching the movie, and from the very beginning, when he's introduced, I no longer think that he's a cool guy, right? Mm-hmm. I think, oh, he's just a weasel. And then the movie kind of like taught me again that no, he's just a human being, right? He's an idiot. He doesn't think things through. He definitely does something that, he shouldn't have done several times.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but I think actually it's key that he falls in love, or that he thinks that he's in love with Julianne Moore, because that shows you that, oh, it wasn't just, if he was just hooking up with her for the sex, or for the the thrill of having sex with somebody that usually doesn't have sex with men, I think that would make him a very different character. But here he goes even as far as to like break it off with that girl that he was having sex with earlier. I guess his regular booty call, where he's like,
the one ethnic character in the entire movie.
Hey, don't forget about the gardener that gets fired.
Oh God. Yeah. Because again, like it makes sense that those are the only places they would be, because they would not be anywhere near all this white people drama.
But that is such a key. Like, you nailed it right in the head when you said that. We were like, it makes sense that there's no more minorities, because this is just this white people problems. They have great houses.
Yeah, I mean, and you can concede that this is like a white people movie.
Well, yeah, but so are most Woody Allen movies, and I like them.
You don't say.
I mean, it's like Midnight in Paris. It's just Owen Wilson.
Midnight in Paris is great, yeah.
Right, but it's it's Owen Wilson being just like a very like privileged white dude, and it's like he's so bored with how awesome he has it in this timeline that he needs to go back to the past just to experience some thrills.
Midnight in White Privilege is the name of that movie. But yeah, this here, it's I do appreciate it. Kind of turns it on its head, and I kind of found myself giggling over it. The way Annette Bening and Julianne Moore's characters are written, it's not the gender that plays it. It's just that trope that works in movies of the one in the relationship is like the by the books, glasses wearing, straight laced, no nonsense, and the other one's got the flair for the gold, the fiery attitude, and the buck the system.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not knowledgeable.
She wears
about
red panties.
Where we were in like gay cinema when The Kids Are Right came out, as far as like how revolutionary it was to have a mainstream movie at the time with big name actors that portrayed a gay couple that was relatable. Now that we're in real talk, and say like I don't have a problem. I think it's cool that they were trying to just really demystify lesbian couples for a mainstream audience, right? I think that even like Chasing Amy, which we both liked and everything, but it's like such a cute lesbian and so like quirky and like whatever, and here, like Annette Bening and Julianne Moore are like real people.
Yeah.
Like their sex life kind of sucks right now, and they don't look like made up all the time. They look like working women, that have 2 kids and are fucking tired. And that's good. That at the same time as regressive as our current like social situation could be, it still feels a little silly in 2018, to see a movie that it almost feels like it tries too hard to tell you, see, they're just like the rest of us. It's like to us right now, we're like, well, of course they're like the rest of us.
I was about to say that's the saddest part. There's people that could like, I'm sure there were people that watched this when it came out. It was like, what, they have problems just like I have problems.
Yeah. There's that you've seen that Kevin Smith movie. It was like a Mary Make a Porno. But you've seen it, right?
So bad, yeah.
There's that moment when Seth Rogen, I wonder if I brought this up with the podcast already, but Seth Rogen is talking to Justin Long and I think Brandon Routh. They're a gay couple, and Seth Rogen is just fascinated because he's seen them argue. And at some point he just says to himself, they're like real people. Or they argue like real people too. I don't know. It's great.
The other thing of like the balance, I feel, I don't know if it's I can't tell if it's by design or whatnot, but the laser character, like he finally stands up to his bully friend. But it seems to me that both the kids, they're all right, but their stories aren't. It seems like they both build up to a certain, it's like a non-climax because they don't really follow up on it.
I felt a little bit like that too, especially the first time around. And I think that I even wrote a joke that I didn't get to put in Contrarians Corner, where I was like, the title of the movie has to tell us that the kids are all right because they're not really in the movie, so we can't tell. But I think that it's more that you can see the influence of Ruffalo there. And that's why I think that the movie is not necessarily like vilifying him, because you can see that he does have a positive effect on the kids. I think that Josh Hutcherson stands up to his idiot of a friend finally more because Ruffalo told him that he thought that he was an idiot and he didn't like the way he talked to him and everything, than because of anything Annette Bening and Julianne Moore said. And that has nothing to do with gender either.
No.
It's just over the fact that your parents are telling you something, and suddenly when a cool stranger tells you the same thing, you may pay more attention to him. So in that sense, I think that it's not for the benefit of lasers. It's more to show us that, oh yeah, see, Ruffalo is having like a good influence on him. Especially Laser, I don't think that his story it's
not fleshed out. It's
right.
Like,
he's just there.
What becomes of this mystifying young Josh Hutcherson now? And then Joni, Mia, she's such a good actress. I kind of felt she was underutilized. When she's in this, it's really good, but it's kind of peaks and valleys in terms of like focus on her. And she has there's like the tease of her having like the drinking issue that Annette Bening has, but then it's just kind of, okay, everything's fine. I guess that's the thing. If the narrative of this was that it's not about the moral turpitude, it's not about the situation, it's about just this family that, fuck it, we're in it together no matter what, we're a family. If that's the picture that you paint, then to me the ending makes a lot more sense.
Well, I mean, I think that is the ending. The one thing that to me fails, where the movie like drops the ball, and I said in Contrarians Corner, is that they have this big blowout, right, where she shows up, Mia Wasikowska shows up drunk, she tells both her parents off, and then literally the next scene is just them having dinner. And I know that
hangover, nothing.
Right. I mean, it could be weeks later or whatever, but it just feels like, wow, we were at such an emotional peak. And you're wondering, how do they survive this? What happens the next morning? And instead, it's just like, they're fine. And then Ruffalo shows up and they yell at him. They're all right. So
I guess that's the thing. They all bottled up their rage, just hoping that Mark Ruffalo would show up.
Oh, they were waiting. He's coming back, so we're going to
They cut out the scene of Annette Bening looking out the curtain saying, I wish a motherfucker would.
I really, this movie, it really hit some buttons. I really... like in a good way. I really enjoyed some of the stuff that it was saying this time around. Annette Bening kind of, gets the acting accolades for most of the movie, but I think Julianne Moore really brings it in that final speech. And Annette Bening is great there too, because you see how, they keep cutting to the reaction shots where she is there with the two kids. And at first, Julianne Moore is talking, and Annette Bening is just doing the reassuring thing to the kids. Like, she like squeezes her shoulders or whatever. But then at some point halfway through, she breaks and then she starts crying. It's so good. But I think that speech, it really recontextualized it. It really did for me, at least, recontextualize the movie for me as far as, you're watching like a family in crisis, and they manage to kind of like pull out of it. I mean, at the end, it looks like they're gonna be okay, but it.
Maybe if you can put that scene where she gives the big Braveheart speech, if you put that before Ruffalo shows up, I think that would help my issue of the balancing act of it, because then I'd just be like, oh, okay, they don't give a shit just because they love each other so much. It's not, moral high ground that they're trying to stand on.
But I think that then you would rob Annette Bening from having a moment of, the moment where she basically tells him, stay away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot stronger if she does it, even though Julianne Moore hasn't apologized yet. So again, you're going to shortchange a character one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad. I think Ruffalo's character can take it because he's a white man.
He's the expendable.
And he's so good, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude, it's the little details. I'm not kidding about that smile after Julianne Moore first kisses him.
Yeah.
Or they kiss, I guess. That's just phenomenal acting.
Yeah, I think we've talked about him on this podcast before. He's great. He's been in plenty of things that I don't particularly enjoy, barring this movie, but he's been in some stinkers, but he's always manages to be good.
Is there a movie where he's not likable, though? Like, even if the movie's bad? I can't think. I was thinking about it during the movie. Like, is there anything where I've been like, fuck Mark Ruffalo, he's just a piece of shit in this movie?
No, not to my knowledge.
And also, I mean, can you imagine this character but played by somebody
Watch
that's
him
not
play
as likable?
Hitler in his next role or something.
You're like, oh, he had his reasons.
His smile.
I mean, by the same token, though, can you imagine this character played by an actor that's not as likable as Ruffalo, and then you would really have that problem of being a villain.
If this was fucking Fassbender from Fish Tank, yeah. Then you got like fucking
he knew what he was doing.
Stalin level villain on your hands.
He'd be nervous that he's gonna hit on Mia Wasikowska next.
That's his goal. That's his target. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's clear as mud, as they say. My thing with this is just my read on the movie, and it's the pieces of this machine are all individually shiny and bright and wonderful and top notch. It's just in the end what it pushes together, what it creates rather, I'm just left kind of And then comparing it to Obvious Child is just in the terms of the balance of the story. Obvious Child is a far, far inferior film to this, which that's another one. The fucking world was on fire when that came out, and this, I think, this was kind of like an American Hustle type thing. If I watched after all the hype, well, it's not that bad.
Chaz is like rubbing his hands. Yes,
he's got the typewriter. This is what I waited for. Watched it in the zenith, the peak of all the hype going on, and then I was just like, because trust me, you can attest to this. There's nothing better than watching one of these fucking indie films that is even better than all the hype.
Oh yeah,
the feeling of exhilaration, like Good Time, for example, when I came out of that, as if I haven't plugged that movie enough, but
you mentioned American Hustle, so we need to balance
the balancing act. Yeah. Not an independent film, but another one was Dunkirk. Like all the shit I heard, I was like, no way, it's that good. And then I came out, I was like, yes, just so supercharged. And there's others like American Hustle that you'll be like, fuck this. And then something like this, when it was over, I was just kind of like, I don't know. But again, not a regretful time watching it. Certainly not something I would say is a 93% or an A+, anything like that. But
I wanna give it like 4 stars out of 5. And really, that full star that it's lost is just because I think they kind of dropped the ball. Like I said, after the big emotional scene.
I mean, the fact that they did it in a month seems accurate, because it's like the 2 story arcs with the kids had like just a cauterized finish. It's, all right, done. And then they had to jump the gun with that next scene. So certainly fun watching together, because we laughed at the same quirks and
and there is something to be said for that narrative that we had in Contrarians Corner, because it can be read by somebody that
clearly
way.
Was by those 7%.
Yeah, I don't think somebody mentioned something about like morality, the moral high ground doesn't need to be puritanical. I don't think this movie is puritanical. I mean, the problem is not that Julianne Moore is having sex with Mark Ruffalo. The problem is that she's having sex with somebody that's not her wife.
Yeah, the problem is she's married and has children and
right,
all this shit. Yeah, I mean, to me, its failings, if I use that word liberally with this, is in its execution as a film has nothing to do with the subject matter or the quote unquote agenda. Again, I don't really feel there's an agenda there. If anything, it's just trying to present a shocking notion that gay people are the same as we are.
Right. I mean, you could see somebody getting mad and saying that, there is an agenda that is just like diversification or whatever you call it, like promoting diversity and having like this story, but it happens to be a lesbian couple instead of a straight couple.
So
and
what?
I work with a couple people that feel that way, so I can tell you that to some people it's like an actual concern.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it's
we got
out there.
Way bigger things to be concerned with.
My final point, as we were watching this, I was like, maybe we should consider having another category in the Embries, like best sex scene. Like the Embry for sex scene, and
we've watched some bangers, no pun intended.
Yeah,
there's been some whoppers.
I mean, this year it would be like definitely have this in contention as well as the De Niro in Righteous Kill.
Cool. Man, all the crunches he did for that role, I'm telling you. I mean, we would have to go back over the whole rigmarole, the whole gamut of films we covered.
Yeah,
so you gotta put in Affleck ass. You gotta put in Reindeer Games. Get naked Charlize Theron and naked Ben Affleck. Did Travolta have any sex scenes in the summer of Travolta?
None that were explicit. Like I don't think we saw. I mean, he clearly he had the sexy haircut with Keira Sedgwick, but that was not that wouldn't qualify.
That was erotic.
That's a different category.
No, Travolta would sweep it just for the towel shot from Basic.
Yeah, there you go.
How cut he got for that fucking movie.
It's Travolta and the towel having sex.
All right. That was The Kids Are All Right. What's episode 72?
Jennifer Lopez, The Boy Next Door.
Whew.
That is. You haven't seen that one,
I
right?
have not. I'm trying to think of any Jennifer Lopez movie I've seen.
Out of sight, probably. Tell me you've seen at least the good ones. Selena,
yeah, duh. They pretty much, if you go anywhere in southern Texas, they welcome. Here's a DVD copy.
Have you seen Selena? Do you own Selena?
Welcome. Whataburger's just down the street. Okay, so we'll go ahead and segue into plugs. I don't really have anything this week.
No. Are we doing plugs or are we doing Halloween first?
I figured the punches are gonna fly, so we can.
so let's do the friendly stuff first.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot of UFC 3. I bought that for my PS4 last week. The career mode on it is fucking awesome. I know I've realized I plug a lot of video games on here, but that's kind of what I do in my free time. So
nothing wrong with that, man.
No.
I wish I could play more video games.
Yeah, the UFC 3 game is really dope. They had a flash sale on the PlayStation Network for it, so I got it. I mean, it's like any sports game. The improvements are usually just aesthetically or visually, but they incorporated this brand new career mode that's like super addictive that I am really having a hard time putting down. But our usual stuff, the festive years provide our opening and closing tracks. Our opening, Last Stand, closing track, Summer of '99. Their album Don't Let Me Use You.
Our friend Hans Rothgieser from the Nacion Combi podcast, he did our logo. He just featured in these awesome flyers that Alex made, and I just got printed today. And I was so happy that you asked me for his Twitter handle so we could properly credit him, because the logo he created is like half the flyer.
Yeah.
so that's good. But yeah, you can reach him at Mildemonios, that's MILDEMONIOS on Twitter. And also you can email him at mildemonios@hotmail.com if you need a logo or if you want to say hi.
And we'll be plugging it throughout the entirety of November. Our friend and guest Reed's Film Festival, the Other Worlds Austin Film Festival, is first weekend in December.
Yeah, so if you're in Austin that weekend, you should get your tickets now.
Yeah.
you can get them online.
It's like a film festival in that you can buy a pass or a badge or a day pass and all that, and they do sell individual tickets, but it's at the Flicks Brew House out in Round Rock. It's a really good time. They got good chicken wings and good beer.
It's definitely worth it. Just get the pass. That way you can just watch whatever you want. And you still have to make some decisions, because I think they're big movies. They play on both screens at the same time. But then all the other movies, you basically, every show, you have to choose, do I watch one or the other?
Yeah.
It's always a good time. Now, as far as my plugs, I wanted to mention that we were at the IMDb Journey podcast.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks again, guys, for having us.
That was a lot of fun, even though we got our asses kicked on the draft. I'm still trying to decide.
I demand a recount.
Yeah, I think that they just played us. Their mind games worked like gangbusters on us. Because you see, what they did was they made us feel guilty about having questions that were too hard on the trivia part, right? And so they planted that.
It was their
on
long
us.
con.
Exactly. So that by the time we got to the draft, we felt so guilty that we just let them pick first, which gave them the Matrix, which we knew was going to happen, and we still let it happen. And I mean, if all the feedback I've read is an accurate representation of how the majority of the voters felt, really what lost us was not the fact that we had two Sandra Bullock movies, but it was the fact that we didn't have the Matrix.
Well,
it's still those of us
can't fault them.
Those of you who voted for us, even though we didn't have the Matrix,
God bless.
God bless. Those of you who voted for Daniel and Dean, even though they had the Devil's Advocate, I just don't understand you. But they have said that they will be happy to come on as guests when we do the Devil's Advocate, and that is, surprisingly enough, that's a gray area. It's not
gonna have to wait till at least episode 90. We got Walter Mitty.
That's true. Yeah.
And then 100 when we revisit American Hustle.
We
just
can't
make fun of Chaz for 2 hours.
Well, American Hustle is not a gray area.
I understand, but
it doesn't matter.
we're breaking all the rules for episode 100.
Episode 100. It's just gonna be us, just real talk for 2 hours. This movie sucks.
Commentary track on American Hustle, where it's us just calling Chaz and just fucking with him the whole time.
And then my other plug. So listen to that episode, even though the results are out. It's still worth listening to.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun, especially when Alex made up a Clive Owen movie that doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah. I said Control instead of Trust. Trust is a very good, albeit very rough movie. Control is also a very good, albeit very rough movie, but it's about the lead singer of Joy Division who killed himself.
It has no
Clive Owen is nowhere near. I don't even know if Clive Owen's seen or heard of Control.
Well, now he has, obviously, because he heard we were going to be on the IMDb journey, and he tuned in, and then he was appalled at your performance. But anyway, the other plug I wanted to do was this podcast called Films on Trial, and they are a British podcast. Why do I mention they're British, like, right off the bat? Because, not gonna lie, you can tell they're British. They're just cool in that British way, where, like, they're just kind of, like, pretty laid back. It feels like they're just, like, effortlessly putting out this podcast that's just, like, really cool. They start with this jazzy, like, intro, which I love, and then it's just, like, 5 guys, and what they do is a little bit of Contrarians Corner, in the sense that they'll pick a movie and then they assign roles. So they have one person that's the defense, one person that's the prosecution, 2 people that are character witnesses, and then 1 judge. And so the judge is supposed to determine if the movie goes on the hit list or the shit list, depending on the arguments of the defense and the prosecution, putting aside how he really feels about the movie. And the character witnesses are there to give the real opinion. So if I'm defense, of a movie that I hate, I still have to pretend that I like it, right? But if I was the character witness, when the judge asks me about how I feel about a certain thing, I just respond with my true feelings. So it makes, for the whole thing, it's pretty
fun.
It's a lot of fun, and when they're done with, like, all their major, like, arguments before they do the verdict, they'll have, like, a few games. So they'll do, like, some trivia, and they do a caption contest every week, where they'll put up, like, a still from the movie that they're going to discuss in the next episode, and then people on Twitter, like, provide the captions. And I actually won for the one they did for Interview with the Vampire.
Nice.
And so I won, and I happened to be, like, the day that they were also going to, like, mention our podcast, so it was, like, a nice connection.
It was a twofer.
It was good. They seem to really have liked the Summer of Travolta. The guy, Gavin, I think he's the guy that does the Twitter, so he already talked to me about it, and yeah, he was pretty amused by the Travoltis.
Nice.
So that just feels like a win.
We were too.
It's like anybody that says they like the Travoltis, I was like, we're on the same wavelength.
We're good people.
Yeah. So Films on Trial, look them up on iTunes, like all the podcast platforms, they're there, and also on Twitter.
Nice. All right. So Halloween was good. We'll see you next time. No, we actually,
or was it,
Alex? We're usually not really good about this. We usually at least say how we feel about something to one another, and we're going into this cold. I don't really know how Julio
Well, I know
feels.
you liked it.
I did. It was a.
And I've just been, I've been sending you texts and then sending them to showing them to Eddie and laughing. It was like, I'm fucking with Alex. He doesn't know. He has no idea how I feel.
It was a real like a B+ is what I would say. So for in case it's your first time listening, or I guess I don't know. I know there's like a lot of movie dicks I suck on this, but I know it's like Good Time and Reindeer Games. But so
you have to have mentioned your love for the original Halloween when we did the Rob Zombie episode.
Had to. The original Halloween is in my top 3 movies of all time. Fucking love it. I enjoy the second one. Yeah, if you're listening to this, and if you listen to by chance our Halloween episode, 4 I really enjoy, but outside of that, they can all kind of fuck off. Difference being Halloween 2 and Halloween 4 I enjoy as a horror movie, whereas the original one is like this actual movie I hold in high regard. So we're getting into the spoiler zone now. The new Halloween, this is not a spoiler. It's pretty common knowledge. It picks up where the original left off. So if you've not seen 2 through Resurrection or 2 through Rob Zombie's 2, don't worry. If you have, cool, because there's a lot of fucking nods to the franchise. Did you notice how he gets his jumpsuits just like 4? How he beats the shit out of that mechanic? Yeah. And there's like some kills and things that are kind of nods to the second, and there's no homage to the third. I was kind of hoping someone would have a silver shamrock hat.
There was no Man in Black, at least as far as I could tell. Unless that was supposed to be the weird like sheriff or whatever, the black dude with the hat.
Oh yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to be a nod to it, but that character, he's also the fraternity brother from Road Trip. I know he's been in other things, but he's the one that scares DJ Qualls to the point of fainting. So, new Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis, awesome.
Yes.
Judy Greer, awesome.
Yes.
I don't know her name off the top of my head, but the girl who played the granddaughter, having never seen her before, thought she was really solid.
Yeah, I think they got a newcomer.
The Wiz, the dad from Enough Said, like him as an actor, but the character was really annoying.
He felt like they gave him way too much screen time for what he amounted to, which was just another victim.
Mm-hmm. Opening credits, awesome. How it was like the original. So what else did I really like in there? There wasn't. I was fearful there was going to be like shoehorned comedy, considering who was doing it.
Dude.
What?
The 2 fucking cops that have like the riff about, what are they talking about? Is it like some sort of sandwich?
Okay, so you're jumping the gun here. There's like a 15-minute window of the movie that I was like, no.
Oh, is this when we're on full on spoilers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So is this when like the doctor becomes Michael? Yes.
So from the doctor killing the police chief up until the Wiz gets killed, basically Michael gets in the house after Jamie Lee Curtis. I was like, fuck me dead. Like, they're going to screw this up. Because that guy turning, and then he fucking put the mask on. I was like, dude, what the fuck? Because, you know, we in some of the other sequels and remakes, that's the thing. My biggest fear, what I thought was happening, was Michael was dead and he was going to inherit Michael. Like Jamie or the sister in the Rob Zombie ones. I was like, fuck, no. And then I kind of thought it was cool how he was like asleep in the back seat and the mask was right there and the girl was with him. But then homeboy, like, his shoulder's all fucked up, yet he can carry this fucking 240-pound man and put him in the back seat of the car. And then the riffing with the cops when they're talking about the sandwich and the whatever. Yeah. And then...
Was that a reference to the funny cops in 5?
No, like... It could have been. My hope would have been if that was the case, so they just put the boom, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. But then I think people would be like, what the fuck? So up until then, and then when he kills the 2 cops, and somehow it's time to make a nativity scene out of their bodies, and then just kind of scoot the car along to the front lawn. And then that was also, you want to talk about a movie with a potential agenda, someone could say it's way too... I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar driven, which I think is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it shows how fucking dumb men are. Like, not Michael, obviously, but then, like, for the whole movie, for the Wiz being, I don't know the guy's name, so I apologize. John Golson, who I follow on Twitter, was talking about how he really likes that dude as an actor. But anyway, for the whole movie, telling, you're crazy, you know, you need to be smarter. quintessential white man. What's going on here? Let me see what's happening. Then he gets strangled.
How do you feel about the kills?
I enjoyed that most of them were off screen because that's how the original is.
Mm-hmm.
And the not Jonah Hill, the kid who got impaled on the fence, that was the one I was like...
I felt that he was a young Josh Gad, actually.
Oh.
He had very, like, the Josh Gad features.
Gadian features.
Gadian features.
So the actual finding him, I thought that was kind of a bit much, but the scene with him was awesome with the motion sensor light in the yard. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, and in that little 15-minute sequence that I was referencing, the only kill that I was like, man, when he stomped the dude's head in, because the whole movie was like, it was violent, but not in like an overt sense. I did think it was kind of cool, the teeth, when he dropped all the teeth. And I thought that was really cool.
I mean, that was in the trailer.
Yeah, but the guy, it was Nick Castle, the guy who played Michael, was the guy who played Michael in the original.
But he was not...
He didn't do like stunts, but like the guy with the gray hair standing at the insane asylum and the guy driving the car, that was Nick Castle.
But through most of the movie, it's like the new guy, whatever his name is.
My understanding was Nick Castle pretty much did all of the Michael stuff except the stunts.
No, see, I thought Nick Castle was there for like just like a handful of shots. Because that dude is 70.
Yeah. The movie's 40 years old. So it could be, but that he's credited as Michael. I thought the whole narrative spin on it, or not narrative spin, but the modernization of the story and the present day aspect was like spot on. Not something I'm sure is going to age well, but the whole fact that those British couple were podcasters that were trying to like do, making a murderer type shit. I thought that was really nice.
Did you feel that they were kind of like written out kind of suddenly?
My thing with that is I think they were in there for too long. They were obviously going to be the first kills.
So they should have gotten to it sooner.
Yeah,
because otherwise it just felt like, they're going to be main
We're
players.
Going to be like part of it,
right?
Yeah.
And instead it took a while. My problem with Halloween is my problem with a lot of horror movies. So in a way, you could just put most of it on the fact that I'm just not a horror person.
The problem with it is that Mark Ruffalo took all the blame.
Yeah. The problem is Ruffalo. He didn't get a redemption at the end. He murdered all those people.
Has sex with Judy Greer and then just gets booted to the curb.
He gets shamed by Jamie Lee Curtis. Just like, you come near her again, I'll fucking blow your balls off. No, because I've raised my concerns, to other people online, and the most common response I get is like, it's a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, yeah, it's a horror movie, but that shouldn't give you, in my opinion, that shouldn't just give you an out anytime that something doesn't make sense, right? No. At the same time,
especially for a movie, considering the platform they're on, they're continuing from the first one, so you're putting yourself on a completely different pedestal than all the horror movies. Right.
Yeah, because it'd be as if also saying, well, it's a horror movie and it's a sequal, so come on, lower your expectations.
If it was like Friday the 13th Part 9, then...
Yeah, it's like, you should just be happy that she came back.
No, that's going to bug me. Friday the 13th, it would be 11 if there was a new one.
Isn't there a new one coming out too?
I think they're rebooting it. Like LeBron James is the producer on it. God bless.
So, I mean, I gave it 3 stars on my Letterboxd review because the acting is great. I think that Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic, and I really like the first half of the movie. I think that they set things up to be very interesting, kind of a little bit like they set them up in 4, which we watched, very recently, in the sense that there is a threat, and I think that most people react to that threat in a very believable manner, right? So Jamie Lee Curtis obviously behaves irrationally, but also rationally. To other people, she's just overreacting, but the way that she's acting makes sense. And
one of my favorite parts of the entire movie is the look on Pam Grier's face when it's happening. She's like, not
you mean
Pam
Judy
Grier? Jesus.
Like, did I miss Pam Grier's cameo?
Fuck me. That would be wonderful. She just comes in, trick or treat, motherfucker. Boom. Judy Greer, when like Michael comes in and she's having to get in the bunker and it's like all happening, the realization of like,
oh god, it's happening.
Like years of therapy and all this shit that I went through, and this is actually happening. And I thought that was a really well acclimated story, because it's true. it's not to say that every single person be that same, but there's a very good chance if someone tries to murder you and they're still at large, you're going to overreact and live your life a certain way.
Right. And then, it's also the fact that I understand why people wouldn't believe that he's a threat at first, but then once he escapes, that they would automatically believe that he's a threat, and that's why Will Patton instantly like jumps on it, and the sheriff and everybody, right? So all that was like really good. I'm like, this feels like a solid horror movie that's updating on things that the way that the original did it, but now we're 40 years later, we have new technology, we have new acting standards, and all that stuff. So, and then the movie becomes a horror movie. and then people start acting, it's no longer believable the way that they act. Funnily enough, it starts with the 15 minutes that you mentioned, because I swear the doctor kills Will Patton, and it's a big moment, right? It jolted me.
And then he like sits up like an inflatable, like an Easter bunny with the mask on.
And it has a mask on.
I think I audibly went, no.
Well, I remember laughing kind of like in a horrified way. And I also thought that there was a good chance that they were about to just basically give us a new Michael Myers. And I was like, well, that's a really ballsy move. And if they pull it off, then that's great. Right. And then he put him in the car. And I was like, oh no, he's going to wake up. Right. But then, so from then on, it's just kind of silly because the doctor who's being, let's say, quirky up to this point, now he goes completely bananas. And I had trouble buying
I
his
did love
whole
the
thing.
one line of dialogue, though, where they just explain when Jamie Lee Curtis, you're the new Loomis.
Yeah, that I laughed. But then when we get to the house, and the moment the house, the action is well shot. It's exciting in a way, but it's also just it's made
Formulaic.
it's just made up of all those like horror movie decisions, right? I could not believe that he killed the dad. He killed the Wiz. He's out there. They know he's out there. Jamie Lee Curtis tells Judy Greer, get in the bunker. And then Jamie Lee Curtis puts her fucking ear to the door and just waits. It's like she's literally putting her head there just so that Michael can break through the glass pane and grab her head. And that is not how, that's not how anyone would behave. Nobody, I can't think of a single person that would do that knowing that the murderer would, what you would assume,
especially someone
strength.
seasoned in the situation.
Right. The fact that it's her making such a rookie mistake is insane, right? I would think that considering that the movie's trying to sell us that she has been preparing for the last 40 years for this, she does a piss poor job, right? Michael gets the upper hand on her several times.
Yeah.
And if it really, this was all part of the plan to just lure him into the bunker so she could like set him on fire.
Yeah.
I think that she didn't do as well as she should have, right? But even then, she sets him on fire and she leaves the house. How can you leave before he's 100% dead?
There's your open door, and it's how much money it made. I guarantee you there's going to be another one.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
But as a character, I wish that they would have justified that. There's no reason for her to leave. They have the upper hand on him. He's trapped. He's on fire. Just unload on him, blow him up.
Get the town drunks and all the local law enforcement just to shoot him up.
They have portrayed her as a character that will not rest until he's dead, except that when she finally has him, she just walks away. And that bugged me so much. That's the ending, and they couldn't nail that, and it's because they can't kill him on screen. They can't kill him on camera. They have to leave the door open.
I feel you on that. I've always said, to me, that was the most admirable part about Rob Zombie's first one, how they kill him in the end, and then he's just alive again.
And Zombie's like, oh, you want me to come back from that? Okay.
Let's do it. The first 2/3 of it, I agree, set a groundwork for something kind of. The big one is when he kills that 13-year-old kid. I was just like, whoa.
I was like, we're not fucking around.
Yeah. And cinematically speaking, there's that awesome one shot of him weaving in and out of those two houses. That's really
just
fucking
killing
cool.
people.
Yeah. There's the homage to part 2 when he kills the woman making the sandwich. Like I said, it's the best Halloween movie we've had in 30 years. So that's one thing to be thankful for. I think the big things that I wanted to be good were good.
Yeah. And I heard that they cut a lot of stuff out. So I wonder if the stuff that they cut would have given more of a purpose to...
We're going to have the producer's cut with more Paul Rudd explaining the Man in Black and the runes.
Well, I felt that her boyfriend also just kind of disappeared from the movie after the movie devoting a lot of time in the beginning to him and the relationship that she had with him.
Sidebar, we saw it at the Draft House. You know the pre-shows they always do?
Mm-hmm.
They showed the trailer for Bonnie and Clyde during the pre-show, and we were like, why the fuck did they show that? Because it was all like Halloween stuff.
Oh,
and then during the movie, yeah, I was like,
yeah, when that happened, I watched it with Eddie, and Eddie was like, oh, you know, what's going to happen is Michael is going to kill him thinking that it's her because he's in drag. And at the time, it seemed like a completely plausible thing. I mean, having seen the movie, I was like, no, that's not what would happen.
Then MAGA Michael's defense would be like, what type of man dresses like a woman?
He had it coming.
Jesus. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I wasn't kidding in that I, for whatever reason, had it in my head that Judy Greer was just like only going to be like in 2 scenes.
Like a cameo. She drops her kid off at Grandma's at the beginning of the
killed.
Movie, and
she
picks him up at the end.
Yeah, so the fact that she's in the entire movie, I was like, fuck yeah, because I really like her, and I think she's kind of an underutilized actress. But yeah, the things I wanted to be good about it were good. As nerdy as it is, the mask was good, which is always a huge concern going into the Halloween movies. You watched 2 of them, so you understand they can vary greatly. Yeah, I think it'll definitely be interesting for rewatch. I mean, I'm going to buy it when it comes out, but as a huge fan of the franchise, I think I went into it almost cynical, like worrying too much and then trying to find things wrong with it. So the things I mentioned, I really didn't like that one little side trek they take, but overall it wasn't like going to see episode 1 where it was completely deflating or anything like that. I really enjoyed it. And also I think the bar was kind of low because I'm like, what are Danny McBride and David Gordon Green going to do with a Halloween movie? So
guy from The Sitter, the guy from Your Highness.
The Sitter's solid.
Oh my God, you too. I think Corey has been telling me that that's a surprisingly good movie. And
I wouldn't say it's surprising. It has parts that are surprisingly good. Sam Rockwell as a crazy coked out bad guy is really good. But yeah, so it doesn't sound like we're too far off.
No, I think that you have a more personal connection with the franchise, so obviously the highs are higher for you.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was just like a good movie that dropped the ball, but I am fully aware that it works better for people that are more into the genre and the franchise than I am. So
yeah.
So it knows what it wants to do and it does it really well.
I'm pretty forgiving of the things you were talking about, the big fucking Broadway at the house at the end where they're chasing each other type thing, just because it built up to the recreation of the shot from the end of the first one
when he looks and she's gone. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Chef's kiss. Cool. Well, I'm glad that it didn't come to fisticuffs on this. Man, what a gauntlet of material we've covered today. From the equality of love is love to Michael Myers.
Michael Myers is Michael Myers.
All right. We appreciate y'all listening as always. That's going to do it for us on The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
That summer of 1999, back when you blew my mind and told me secrets in the dark. I'm just fine. Thanks for asking. I just can't quite get by that time in 1999.
Oh wait, can Monica and Chandler not have kids?
Yeah.
Oh.
I couldn't. They end up adopting. I think. I don't know. I didn't finish.
I can't go past like season 4. I've told you my thing with Friends. When I watch it, I get mad at myself for laughing at it because I'm like, God damn it.
I have no shame. I love Friends, but I still haven't been able to finish the series.